She's a real woman with a real life. She's someone you can relate to. Dawn Newton.
Welcome to the Dawn Newton podcast. I am your host, Dawn Newton. COVID-19 and real estate. There is some concern and hesitation for both buyers and sellers across the country right now. How do you move forward with a big life decision when there's so much uncertainty? Tracy McLaughlin joins me today. She's a real estate broker and entrepreneur. She's also been the #1 producer in residential sales in Marin County, California, every year since 2005. She's here to talk to us about her new book, Real Estate Rescue. She's going to share with us her take on what this epidemic means for those in the process of buying and selling. She's also going to talk about the impact it may have on our future, how and where we live. Tracy McLaughlin, it's great to talk with you. You're the author of the new book coming out here in May, Real Estate Rescue. Real estate, the market, it's a market now during this COVID outbreak, but real estate in general, sometimes we need to make adjustments, but overall there is some constants in real estate, whether you're buying or selling.
Yes, there are many constants. I've been through, I think this is the third kind of dropout or, perceived dropout in real estate where things stopped. We had 9/11 and then, of course, the economic downturn in 2008-9, and now this is kind of the third of these cycles that I've been through. So this one, while nobody was prepared for COVID, I feel a little bit better prepared for how to guide people when these downturns happen. And the interesting thing about this is this one is it's different because it wasn't an infrastructural decline of like the fundamentals of the economy like 2008 and 9 was, with banking systems defaulting and things. This is a pandemic. So what's so interesting about this is, and this is where I see this going, is that people have spent more time in their homes, at least here in California. We're on week 5 now of this, shelter-in-place lockdown, so to speak. So the walls of your house have probably been no more evident to you, whether you love your home or you were ready for a change than right now. So my prognostication is that for many people, it will be an opportunity to make a change because perhaps they don't love where they're living now, or they're in, urban density and tower kind of living with strollers and babies. And, can you imagine getting in and out of elevators right now with not even really, being able to touch elevator buttons and kids and groceries. So I actually think there's a real opportunity right now for a little bit of a shift in housing and people being open to maybe a little bit different housing that they've been living in. And this will shake a lot of those apples out of the tree. So I feel that I feel more positive and upbeat about this particular time we're going through than the prior two downturns.
And a little bit, too, about you, Tracy. You're a real estate broker and entrepreneur. You've been the #1 producer in residential sales in Marin County, California, every year since 2005. You've been in this industry for a long time. Like you said, the market swings and shifts and, downturns and upswings. Tell us about the book that's coming out, too, Real Estate Rescue.
Yes, well, thanks so much for asking about it. It comes out on May 12th. You can pre-order it on Amazon, and it's already hit a couple #1 categories in Amazon in pre-orders, so we're really pleased so far. And basically, the premise of the book is that, for most Americans, their residence is their biggest asset. And having done this now for 21 years and being one of the top people in the country, I kept watching the movie over and over throughout my career where people hired the wrong person. They did not do the right things to prepare their home to sell it. Either the right negotiations didn't go on, or a lot of money was left on the table. And there was one particular instance I can just tell you briefly, but I think it's an interesting story. And I wrote in the chapter about this book, I hope that friendship was worth $500,000 because that's what it cost her to be her friend. But, there was a woman here in Marin going through a divorce, and her well-to-do husband was very generous and said, here, you take the house. It's worth about $5.2 million. I'll take other things. And she went ahead and hired a friend who had just hung a shingle in real estate who was really kind of just dabbling and kind of having fun with it, had no background in the business. And she said, I really feel like I owe this to her. She's listened to my divorce woes for a year and a half or whatever. So she went ahead, listed the home, overpriced it. And I, as the buyer's agent, brought my first buyer in. We offered $4.95, I think, or $4.9. They didn't even respond to us. They had listed the home at $5.5 million. 7 or 8 months later, with that many mortgage payments later and 2 staging changes later, so this staging out here is $25,000 for a house like that, so another $50,000 in staging and all these months of carry. My second set of buyers came along and paid $4,650 for the house. So she effectively lost $500,000. And this was the money this woman was going to live on. And I just remember watching that movie thinking, oh, my God, she just lost $500,000 because of the way her house was handled. I have to write a book about the mistakes I see people make. And largely they have to do with hiring initially underqualified people that do not understand that this is most people's biggest asset, and it should be treated as such. We should have the same level of education as stockbrokers and other money managers. And we have a fiduciary responsibility really to have a lot of integrity and to guide people in a way so that they don't lose money, whether it's on the buy side or the sell side. So anyway, I recreated many, many stories for hours and hours and came up with the content from a different perspective, I think, that's ever been written in residential real estate, how not to make these mistakes, with a lot of data from around the country and a lot of interviews with my colleagues all over the country. And a lot of design and pre-listing renovation tips, which are, I think that's really the nucleus of the book. So,
well, it's that relationship between the client, whether it's buyer or seller, and their agent, and sometimes having a hard discussion that both kind of seem to shy away from at times.
That is so true. I mean, I think first of all, it's an interesting dynamic, right? I mean, there's no other asset that we have that we're emotionally tethered to like our homes. Stock portfolios or buying a commercial building and renting it out. None of those things are an emotional asset, but yet our homes are, where our memories are made. And we select the things in them, whether it's lighting or the stain on the hardwood floors, our art, our colors on the walls, because it's a reflection of who we are. So there's an immediate emotional tethering to the asset. And yet it's very hard for us to move on. Like, we still love the music. I still love George Michael from the 80s, right? Or, so we hang on to things that we love. But the problem with doing that is there's a significant pendulum swing about every 8 to 10 years on what to make your house look like, so the demographic of potential buyer or probable buyer immediately relates to it online and wants to see it and buy it. And that is a very, very hard discussion for people. I have an example right now that it's a $17 million home, but I almost have PTSD every time I see them on my phone, because I know how difficult the conversations and the pushback are on my recommendations for them to actually get $17 million for this house. It's just people, even though they're hiring you as an expert and you have an incredible track record, they still are going to push back because of their own convictions on what they like and why they feel that's more relevant for selling the home than what you do. So that innate kind of push-pull goes on all day, every day in our business if you're good at what you do. Now, if you roll over and just say, I don't want to lose the listing, of course I'm not going to push back on them. What's going to happen is they're going to lose money in the sale. They're never going to know what they lost. And sometimes that house will never even sell, especially in markets like this that are a little bit uncertain, because they just weren't positioned right in the marketplace. So I always advise my colleagues when I'm doing public speaking and things, tell your clients the truth. Give them the option. They don't have to do it, but tell them the cost significance of not doing things that keep your home up. And I always use an example like, when you flip through a great listing online, every photo should look like a magazine photo. And now, it doesn't matter if your things aren't perfectly updated, but the editing, the styling, everybody has enough money usually to paint their house white. Doing things that optimize marketing, which is largely about our photography and contrast in photos, is really the name of the game. So as much as we think, I bought that house, I put the furniture in it 20 years ago and I bought it this way, I still love this couch, who cares? That costs people money, and they never realize how much money it actually costs them.
Well, and talking about social media, when you do that presentation online, because now that's where everybody's going, using all the different platforms that are free to the public, and then maybe using a realtor's website. But looking at how it's presented, and some people are just buying right off of those photos, but they still need to go walk the house, see the neighborhood, see location if it's going to fit their lifestyle. How are you seeing social media impact the industry?
I mean, it's had a huge impact. I mean, we have such an opportunity, and it's so funny, how quickly things date themselves. I think we're living in an area right now where everybody has focus issues. Everybody has ADD right now. The old, like from 8 years ago, those rotational, walk-through video tours, people, I mean, there's no way in the world we're living in today where your Instagram's popping, you've got to jump back on email. Are you going to go through a home in a virtual tour that is that slow and you can't control it? So what we find out now is that people love marketing materials that they can control, that they can flip to, 1, 2, 3 quickly. Nope, that house isn't for me. I'm not going to sit here and watch some protracted video. So the content has become, it's become far shorter, snappier. The videos I do for my listings, I stand in a house and I'm like, this is why I love this house, and then they're on to the next house. But you've got to grab them quickly. So the business is moving much faster. There's so much more data available to buyers. They are actually, most buyers in today's markets that are, somewhat sophisticated, most buyers understand the value of the home they're looking at before they walk in the door as much or sometimes more than their own agents. I mean, that data is right there. They can run their own numbers. They can run their own comps. They can see the home. And really, when they go tour the home, it's just to find out things that they might not otherwise have seen online. Is there a little bit of ambient road noise? How dark does the backyard get by 2 p.m.? I mean, these more environmental issues that you sort of have to stand there to understand them. But you can do a lot of shopping online, and it doesn't take long once you walk into the house to say, you know what, this is the one because I verified a few things I needed to find out in person.
And what's your advice to those that are attempting and wanting to sell during the COVID outbreak? And what's your advice to sellers?
A great question. And what I'm advising people right now is, first of all, don't panic. There's always a market for buying, selling, and renting homes. So do not panic. And I've already seen a couple sellers in this area saying, well, should we just drop the price to this right now when this whole thing is over? I'm like, don't start artificially adjusting the price of your home because we had an unforeseen pandemic. Sit tight. The financial markets are starting to, go back up towards a bull market versus a bear market. So I think people need to sit tight. They need to stay the course, and they need to understand that there are divorces, there are deaths, there are people upsizing, there are people downsizing, there are transferences, and that there's always a need for people to move. I think we'll see a lot of influx, like I said earlier, of people out of more dense housing that really have a need to get out and breathe. And I know Bend lends itself so perfectly to that. In fact, you guys have been a major buy-out market from California with our taxes and everything out here. Bend has been a really popular choice for a lot of people in this particular area, just over the Golden Gate Bridge, because it offers so many incredible things we have, but is more affordable and candidly probably even more beautiful. So, I think places like Bend, Oregon, they will benefit from people coming out of cities saying, I don't ever want to go through that again. That was horrible. If there's another one of these, or probably there will be another in our future. I don't ever want to be stuck in a vertical building again where I can't get out. The dog can't go out. You look at that just really kind of the pragmatic aspect of being stuck in vertical housing with a lot of people around you during this. I think it would be really challenging. So I would advise people, if you were preparing your home to sell it, keep the preparations up. Use this time wisely. Get all of your pre-listing inspections done. Get every report done on your house that a buyer would do, so that you're armed with the information you need about your house to march out to the marketplace with assurance and not the possibility of a renegotiated contract or a cancellation. Make sure I've just been on the phone before I talked to you with a guy whose house didn't sell the last time. And I'm flipping through with him on FaceTime, saying, okay, these are the 10 things you're going to need to do. Let's get these things done if you can get them done right now. I mean, there are some service providers still working out here. And let's take this time to get you all teed up so it's perfection when you're ready to march out again. So that's my best advice. Sit tight. Don't panic. You're particularly in a great market for transitioning buyers, and make your house look as perfect as you can within your own budget when you sell it. And that's a lot of staging, styling, editing, and making sure photographs are just beautiful when you do go online.
And Tracy, what's your advice to buyers? I know there's been buyers that have had to withdraw offers due to being furloughed, laid off. A couple months can really make a difference in somebody's financial situation. When we come out of this on the other side of it, some of those buyers, how are they going to recover, reset? What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, certainly buyers in pricing tiers that are largely depend on service economies that have been laid off, I would say that purchase is probably going to be on hold unless the government's going to do more in terms of enabling deal flow in those levels. But my supposition is, and listen, I'm not an expert, none of us really are at this point, but my supposition is that we have, I mean, if I eat one more meal from the local grocery store here, I think that when we come out of this, we are all going to be so ready for entertainment again, to be able to go to restaurants, safely, all of that, that I think a lot of the service providers hopefully will jump right back in as soon as these are lifted. And, if you were in the middle of buying something and all of a sudden your salary, if you went on unemployment or something happened in terms of the level of income you were making, I think you pause out and you wait for an opportunity for somebody who might be a little distressed as a seller in the marketplace. And you go after that. You say, okay, well, look, I didn't get to buy what I wanted right now, but in 7 months, there might be some fallout of inventory where I can be a little predatory and buy even a house I didn't think I could get in this price range. In fact, I just got a reach out from a buyer saying, okay, I'm ready to jump in, Tracy, find me some distressed homes when we come out of this. And, so I think there's always opportunity. And sometimes I always tell my buyers and sellers, things happen for a reason in real estate. If something didn't work out, there's usually something better around the corner. I've rarely not seen that be the case.
Well, Tracy, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and this insight, especially into the industry, the real estate. It's just kind of a wild time right now with this outbreak. Where can we find you, and when will we be able to get our hands on your book?
Thank you so much for asking. So my email, I'm happy to throw it out there. If anybody ever wanted to email me and just say, listen, we're in a dilemma, what do we do? I help people a lot just as a courtesy. So my email is Tracy@TracyMcLaughlin.com. It's TracyMcLaughlin.com is my website, and Tracy@TracyMcLaughlin.com is my email. Can you find me? The book is, you can pre-order it on Amazon, and it's called Real Estate Rescue. Its delivery date right now is scheduled for May 12th.
Well, again, Tracy, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dawn Newton podcast. I'd also like to thank my special guest today, Tracy McLaughlin, real estate broker, entrepreneur, and now author of her new book, Real Estate Rescue. For more information about Tracy, you can visit her website, which is TracyMcLaughlin.com. And be sure to visit my website, DawnNewton.org. The Dawn Newton podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Dawn Newton.